Welcome back, everybody. Good morning. All right. So, I don't know if this has been done before, but I thought we would kind of open the school year. We've got some remarks, and then you've got some things to do later on in the day. But I'd like to open up the day with the national anthem. I think that would be something nice to do. But you guys look a little sleepy, you know? First day back, you know, it's probably pretty early. So, I'm wondering, can we wake these people up? Do we have any students that are going to be able to wake these guys up? Mr. Bertino, hit it. All right, so, well, hopefully that woke everybody up a little bit. I wanted to start the day with students, because that's why we're here, right? Before I get going into my remarks, I'd like to introduce our board president, Mr. Ed Brown.
Let's see if that makes a difference here. I have to write things down, or I will know I'll walk, or I'll go back to work and I'll think about all the things I should have said. So I was told to be funny, and I was told to be professional, I was told to be specific, and I was told to be short. So a lot of oxymorons in that advice. So the fine arts teachers, you're going to have to tell me if I was funny, or there was drama, or it was a tragedy. Professional, you can all have a voice on that. And I was told to be specific, so find ways to measure that. So I think that's be my math area. It needs to help me with the specifics, see if I was good, or chemistry. But short on point, I think that's the athletic area. They've got the stopwatch. So we're going to see what that was, but hopefully we find a happy medium in that. You know, as I look out here, and I did this a year ago, Mr. Schaller is right there. Mr. Schaller's known me the longest, and it's always a pleasure to know him, and hopefully it's a pleasure he knows me. Maybe we'll see how much of that pleasure is after this is over. But as you judge whether this is a good speech or a bad speech, and whether it's short or not, you can always send all that feedback to Rick. He'll compile all that data, and he'll let me know. And so I thank you, Rick, for that. You know, I think the last year was a really good year. We had our full year with Dr. Storsley here as superintendent. We had such success with our students. I get to, and along with other board members, get to enjoy the part of handing out diplomas, and that's just a wonderful part of our job. And but I'd say the other part we did is we worked on our strategic plan, and I think that's what you're going to talk about. And the strategic plan involved members of the school here, and members of the community, and the parents, and the board, and that was exciting, kind of seeing where we're going to take a school the next few years. And I want to thank those that did participate. Your input's so valuable. It's going to take all of us to help execute on these plans. I had one that was really neat to me, and it's always about the students, so I say promote student growth and achievement. Hopefully I've got that right. So you'll hear about that. And I think what I love most, what's going on, is a shift of focusing so much on teaching kids how to pass a test, but teaching kids how to be problem solvers and become thinkers and take that to the next step, because the test doesn't just define the student anymore. And colleges are starting to acknowledge that, which is great. Let's see where I'm at here. So what do you do? Well, you have to teach students how to learn with you, and I think that's the message I wanted to kind of share with you, is that while we all may teach the same curriculum to the students, we all have a different way of teaching. And I think the first thing a student needs to learn before they learn your course is to learn how they learn from you. And I think that's the message. Because if they can learn how to learn from the diversity of every one of us here in the room, that's going to help them be successful. Not just successful to get into college, successful to graduate college. Not just to be successful to get a job, but to get promoted in a job. And I think that's the thought that I had as I was thinking about what I wanted to say here. So while students have to learn how to think the way you teach, you have to teach the students the way they learn. And hopefully you wrote that down. That's going to be on the test. So that's my joke. So, but as I look at the teachers, as we do have multiple ways to think about teaching, I think about what I experienced this last summer. I went 300 miles south to my old high school. It's a very small school. They did their first Hall of Fame induction. And you might think, okay, Hall of Fame, they think about athletics and success of teams or players on the field, but I went, not to be inducted, no, it wasn't about me, I just went to see John Soper. And John Soper taught 47 years. And that's a long time. But I remember John. And for me, that's what I hope the students look at you and feel the same way. I'm a little choked up about this. Feel the same way about Mr. Soper, the way I want them to think about that about you as well. So you've got the gift of taking them and helping them become that success that they will be. And I do thank you for that. So with that, let's see. I think I said most of that. So the board administration, I certainly will work with you to achieve the strategic plans that you are going to start to tell us about. And we will be there along doing our part. And again, I like to do my part at the end of graduation with those seniors. But as you take those middle school students and you bring them all the way up to become high school graduates, I think it's fun to see where they're going to be in 5, 10, 15, 35 years as it was for Mr. Soper. So.
All right, so as Ed mentioned, that was a perfect intro. We want to talk a little bit about our strategic plan. We worked a lot on that last year, and it might be nice to actually follow up and tell you guys what it's all about. So, the first question you might be asking is why? Why are we doing this? What was wrong with the old strategic plan? What was wrong with the old mission statement, right? And there it is. The answer is nothing. There was nothing wrong with that mission statement, because I know a lot of people worked really hard on it. And if you look at it, it's really good stuff. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But why are we doing a new mission? Well, we definitely need new goals. Times change, and the world is changing. We actually got a couple of pictures of our sort of tech, I don't want to say graveyard, that's a little dark, but we have things like this. Don't use those anymore, right? Or do we? I don't know, maybe we do. These, rotary phones, yep. Phones have changed, computers have changed, and hairstyles changed. Next slide. So, it's always good to update. I read this book. We did a lot of summer reading. I saw on the flip grid people doing summer reading. This is actually one that I picked up from ISTE. It's called The Runaway Species. And it's all about brain research and creativity and how, what is going on in the brain during the creative process, long story short. But there's a really nice quote in there that goes a little something like this. From our daily activities to our schools, to our companies, we're all riding arm in arm into a future that compels a constant remodeling of the world. Right? The world has found itself transitioning from a manufacturing economy to an information economy, but that's not where the road ends. We're already seeing the first glimpses of this new model, the creativity economy, right? And when you grab your cup of coffee 10 years from now, you may be walking into a job that looks very different from the one you're working now, right? And that's from the book. No big surprise, that's nothing new really. The economy is changing, times are changing, technology is changing. We've got to update what we do as well. All right, so let's talk about some jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago. For example, drone operator. Tom knew, that's like kind of his gig. App developer, of course. We're actually starting mobile makers this year where kids are going to design their own apps. That's pretty cool. Self-driving car designer. I don't think we're teaching that yet, but PLTW, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Sustainability expert. That's a job. Like, for example, if you have an organization that has a giant solar farm, you might need somebody who's, thinking about all this stuff. Social media manager. I can use one. cloud computing engineer, right? These are all jobs that have popped up over the next 10 years. So think about the next 10 years. What's that going to look like? One other job, video game streamer. I don't even know if that's actually the name of this guy's job. Does anybody know who this is? Tyler Blevins, Ninja? Right, so Grayslake Central graduate, his job right now is to play video games, play like Fortnite and these kind of, these tournament games, stream them online, and make money. If you read that article, he's doing really well, like really well. But who knew? Like, that's a job, right? It's crazy. So, strategic planning. We knew we kind of had to update a little bit where we were going, but that's where we're at. So our process, just to review very, very quickly. All right, we had surveys. We did interviews and focus groups. Our facilitators came in and had focus groups, all different stakeholder groups, which led to a strategic planning committee. About 40 people got together, took all of that information in, and tried to like put some meat on the bones, right? Try to make some meaning of that. So that's what we're going to share today. And just a little background, just how many people participated in the first column, the focus groups. We had 117 people participate and about almost 600 people take the online survey, and that's faculty, staff, community, et cetera. So a pretty good, I would say a pretty good rate of participation. All right, so let's just get into it. Mission statement. Again, the mission statement, we had absolutely nothing wrong with it, lots of really good stuff about it. Or in it. A mission statement is a statement of overall purpose of an organization. Should say what we do, for whom we do it, and the benefit. And here it is. We empower all students to launch their futures through relevant, engaging, authentic learning. It's a little bit shorter. Hopefully we can remember it. I'm going to be honest with the other mission statement. Just about every school kind of had a mission statement like that. I can't remember those. Maybe that's just me. It was a little too long. I couldn't really kind of wrap my head around it. We're hoping that people can remember this a little easier. So let's unpack it a little bit. So a lot of these words were chosen intentionally, like empower, to make someone stronger and more confident, especially controlling their life and claiming their rights. I think that's something we should do. All was intentional. All means all of our students, whether they're high achieving, whether they struggle, whether they have an IEP, whether they're English learners, they all deserve this opportunity. That middle line, launching their futures, I think one of the most amazing things about this district, in addition to the people, are the opportunities that we have for our students. Just amazing opportunities for all of our students, and we want to make sure we're providing those opportunities, keeping every door open for our kids. But if you walk away with nothing else from this mission statement, I'm hoping you're walking out remembering something about it. That last line should look kind of familiar, might have heard that before. The relevant, engaging, authentic learning, almost like it's an acronym. Right? What that means is we're all on the real team now. Right? That's what we do. And a lot of that has been going on, absolutely, of course. But we wanted to get that down in writing. Make it official, so to speak. Relevant, engaging, authentic learning. Okay? Moving on. But what's our vision? I'm pretty sure it's like strategic planning law that you have to have a mission and a vision. If you don't, you go to like strategic planning jail or something like that. We took a little bit of a different approach, but a vision statement reflects the district's preferred future. Very nice. Vision statements describe how the future will look if we achieve that mission, right? Took a little bit of a different approach. Ultimately, we thought the vision of District 127 should focus on the skills and dispositions of the students that were up here today, of our graduates. What do our graduates look like? So we did, rather than just a vision statement that is going to kind of get mixed up with a mission statement and what's the difference, we did something called a portrait of a graduate. All right? And a portrait of a graduate is going to help us answer, number one, what's our vision for our students? What kind of graduates do we want to produce? What are the hopes, the aspirations, the dreams that our community has for our students? All right, what are the skills and habits of mind that our students need for success in this rapidly changing and complex world? Serves as kind of a quote-unquote North Star for system transformation, and portraitofagraduate.org is an actual organization that is working with schools to build portraits of graduates throughout the nation. So I would like to show this quick video. Now, this is a little bit of a callback to last year. We watched most likely to succeed. This is kind of an offshoot of that, a shorter version of that, but I just want to play this really quick to remind people kind of the sentiment here.
For all of human history, the primary focus of education has been acquiring more content knowledge. And the only way to get it is through the teacher, right? You don't have to do that anymore. Today, content is ubiquitous. It's free. It's on every internet-connected device. And it's growing exponentially and changing constantly. The world simply no longer cares how much our kids know. What the world cares about is what they can do with what they know, which is a completely different education problem.
When we were growing up, parents and teachers talked about work ethic, that you really had to want to work hard. But it turns out in the 21st century, work ethic isn't good enough. You can't just intend to work hard. You actually have to know what to do next yourself. You have to be motivated and you have to have knowledge about what is the next step I ought to be taking.
If we can compete with other countries, it's got to be in producing citizens capable of innovative thinking. Not citizens capable of industrial production, not citizens capable of assembling iPads. We're going to lose if that's what we think we're producing. The old blue-collar industrial model of education is already gone. We're already living in its wake.
So what is everyone looking for? They're looking for people who can do critical thinking and problem solving, ... in order to get an interview. Critical thinking and problem solving are really table stakes today. They assume you've got that. What everyone's really looking for are people who can not only do their job, but invent, reinvent, and re-engineer their job while they're doing it.
A recent study by the RAND Corporation found out that among the state tests that are used for accountability, only about 2% of the items on the math tests measure higher order thinking skills. 98% of the items are, can you apply an algorithm and do the procedure? The problem with that is that quite often people who can identify a particular problem format and crank out an answer, or find and guess an answer from a list of 5, which schools spend a lot of time on, cannot reason their way through a mathematical application in the real world.
We have to prepare students to be resilient, to be thinkers, to be collaborators, to be communicators. We have to prepare them in such a different way.
I think there's a sharp trade-off between what can be tested easily on a large scale and what's important in life. Think of a different universe where you're asking kids to invent a science experiment, write a creative essay, come up with an interesting historical perspective on an event they care about. Far more important challenges for a kid, far more aligned with what they need to do in the real world when they graduate. Much harder to test and very hard to say you got a 731 on this experiment and somebody else got a 627 on the experiment. So that's the existential trade-off we face in education.
Creativity cannot be taught, but it can be cured. Because to me, creativity and entrepreneurship and in the spirit to innovate, they all are human nature. We can enhance it, we can make it better, but more importantly, a lot of times we're discouraged by forcing people to do what other people think is right, to force people to find answers, not ask questions, to force people to shoot for answers very efficiently, not ask them to explore.
There's some really big questions here is, what should we be teaching? Who are our major stakeholders? So getting that consensus among all of the players, the parents, the teachers, the business community, the politicians, of this is what we want our end product to look like. This is what we want the students coming out prepared to do, not just to know. Until you get that aligned, getting tough doesn't matter, because you're getting tough on what?
I would argue that beyond the morality of this issue, it's simply a matter of self-interest for all of us. Because if we don't train and teach and really support children from all these backgrounds, they become our responsibility or our fear, the source of our fear. Because we have to teach them about what we consider most important in our society. This is not about something that would be nice to do. This is about the very essence of our future. This is about who we become as a nation.
Okay, so I want to talk about our portrait of a graduate. and I'll show it to you in just a second, but just to kind of tease it a little bit, there are 12 attributes that we came up with. And they're kind of, to chunk this out a little bit, they're grouped into 3 categories, 4 each. Our students are learners and thinkers, self-aware individuals, and globally connected citizens. All right, so rather than just showing you the bullet list of whatever all these things are, when you came in, I don't know if you noticed, kind of taped to the front of your seat is a little card that looks something like this. Don't worry, the bottom of the seats are clean. They cleaned over the summer, it's all right. Promise. Grab one of these. On this card, you should find, and if you don't have one under your seat, just look for the seat next to you. There's plenty of them. You'll find one of the attributes that are part of our portrait of our graduate. Here's what I'd like you to do. Find your shoulder partner or shoulder group or people around you. It's a little hard to move you guys around in groups in the auditorium, so stay where you're at. But think about this for just a little bit. Why did we include whatever's on your card? Why did we include that? Why is it important? Is it? You can disagree, that's fine. How might we ensure that this, your attribute, is incorporated in our school? Okay, so we'll talk for a little bit about that. Talk with your shoulder partners. Just to hold you accountable a little bit, just be prepared. We will ask different people in the audience, and I may throw an object at you.
Nice. I had goal-oriented. In high school, being goal-oriented is pretty important. As kids come in, setting short-term goals their freshman year, and obviously progressing throughout till they graduate from high school. That's that.
All right, civically engaged, takes actions to improve conditions, views self as a citizen of the world, and participates reflectively. So the way that this is just getting the students involved within the community. A lot of breast cancer awareness and all the marches and things like that. So one of the things that comes to mind, all the money that the schools have raised and just making the students aware of different problems and how to be a solution to that, especially within their community and people that they see every day.
Okay. I wanted to give everybody just a little bit of a, I can show you the bullet list, that's fine, which I'm going to do right now, but just wanted to give to kind of interact with at least one of these attributes. So I'll get off talking into the Nerf ball. So thank you very much for that. It's a brief discussion, but again, I wanted to give people a little bit of a chance to interact with some of these traits. So here it is. Here's the overall graphic. Randy Schweitzer helped us with this. So as you look at it, there's that phrase up there at the top, which hopefully looks familiar. Empower all learners to launch the future so relevant, engaging, authentic learning. That's our mission statement. Awesome. And here's what the attributes are. Okay. So under learners and thinkers, students are always learning. Lifelong love of learning, knowing how to learn, being critical thinkers, taking information in and being able to critically evaluate it, apply knowledge in different situations and different disciplines, being creative problem solvers. Creativity is one that is typically on here, and that's very important. I wanted creative problem solvers, or we chose creative problem solvers. It's a little bit broad. When you put creativity, people think, oh, okay, well, that's art class. Well, no, it's, yeah, definitely a part of art class, definitely part of being creative, but being a creative problem solver is a little more broad. Being resilient, grit, right? Being able to stick to things. Being balanced, physically, mentally, emotionally, and striving for that. Being self-navigators, goal-oriented. Being civically engaged, right? Something that this district does really well. Being culturally sensitive. And then communicators and collaborators in many different ways and many different formats, including electronically. Right? So, that's it. What I don't want with this, as you look at this, is don't panic. All right? So, here's the portrait of the graduate. It's got the mission statement. We're going to be printing out these posters and all, getting them to your classrooms. This is a lot, right? It's brand new. What I don't want you thinking is like, oh my gosh, I've got to do all of this on Thursday, right? Now I've got to teach a lesson on always learning, or whatever. This is a long-term plan, right? And the idea is that this should be a portrait of our students after being with us for 4 years. That's the graduate part, right? We're just starting to talk about it, you know, so we're going to we will have conversations about where these attributes fall, how this works. I suspect that different departments are going to emphasize different aspects of this profile. Different units are going to lend themselves to different parts of this portrait. For example, I expect the counseling department might be interested in self-navigating or self-navigators or goal-oriented, but at the same time, it's not only their responsibility, right? Just the same, it's not the English department's job solely to focus on communication, right? Each of our disciplines can view communication from very different lenses, right? Communicating verbally, communicating in writing, communicating through art, communicating mathematically. Lots of different ways to get at some of these. It's all part of the rich experience we want for our students over 4 years. So for right now, we're just getting a good look at this. And, you know, if you think about it, if you're a teacher, you know, can you choose 1 or 2 that maybe you want to build into your curriculum one way or the other? Again, don't want to radically alter your lesson plans for Thursday or Friday, but just be thinking about it. Again, I don't want this to be like, oh my gosh, like one more thing to do. There's so many things we're doing. Well, we do a lot of things. It's all part of the same thing. I guess that's how I look at it. This determines our mission and our vision for our students, and again, it's going to take time to bring this in to make it, you know, real, so to speak. So different lessons, different instructional strategies are automatically going to touch on different aspects of the profile, but I want to give you a couple of examples, and at the same time, I want to mention some of the new things that you'll be hearing about this year. Right? So, for example, we have a number of teachers go through Buck Institute training at the beginning of the summer. Raise your hands, please, if you're out there. Awesome. Wow, awesome. They're going to be working with project-based learning. So just off the top of my head, by using project-based learning, likely addresses always learning and the skills related to lifelong learning and learning how to learn. Also, applying knowledge across disciplines and being a creative problem solver and being a self-navigator in communication and collaboration. Next, we have a group of teachers who are working on a pilot, a blended learning pilot. Blended, meaning a blend of in-seat instruction and electronic instruction, right? So if those folks could raise your hands, please. If you're kind of working on the blended pilot, great, thank you. Potentially, you know, again, these students would be in class some of the days of the week and working electronically other days of the week. I suspect that might address always learning, possibly resilience, being a self-navigator, as well as being a communicator and a collaborator. In addition, we're also working on career pathways, articulating a 4-year sequence for students who might be interested in specific professions or trades. So if you're interested or a student is interested in being a nurse, you know, here are the courses you should take from freshman to sophomore to junior to senior year. That's going to help you maximize your time and your effort. Right? So I'm going to suggest, at the very least, that's going to hit self-navigators or goal-oriented. Another big thing you're going to be hearing about, I think, at the building level is interventions. All right? New interventions that both buildings are going to be implementing this year for learners who need additional help outside of the classroom. I would suggest, again, this hits always learning, resilience, being a self-navigator, and don't forget the mission statement, all means all. Oh, and by the way, we're fully one-to-one this year, which is kind of fun. Depending on how we use technology, that could hit all of these things, but at a bare minimum, I would say at the very least, being communicators and collaborators, specifically in that electronic space. In addition, Tom and Shayna's roles are going to be changing just a little bit this year, right? From strictly kind of being a tech coach, is their job title, to a broader instructional coaching model. Tech is certainly a part of that, but they're going to be working with teachers on instruction overall with a strong focus on student learning. While this is designed as a portrait of a graduate, students in other words, these are skills and attributes, I would argue, that we should be okay with as well, that we should expect of ourselves. I would say that Tom and Shayna's mission supports our ability to always be learning and to be goal-oriented, but certainly they're going to be helping integrate these skills throughout our program. I'm also really interested in grade level themes and how this might play out. That is, 9th grade identity as a theme, 10th grade systems, 11th grade change, and 12th grade creation. And I'm going to paraphrase Tracy Lander here for a little bit. So a grade level theme is a common idea or phrase that can be used across an entire grade level in different ways. So if, for example, we chose a grade level theme of identity for 9th graders, right? All freshman teachers and activity sponsors could could use that as a lens any way they see fit. It could be a year-long project, could be a recurring topic, or a singular unit. For example, the Link crew could talk about identity in high school. The social studies department could talk about who we are as a nation or a community. Probably already are. Right? The science department could use identity like our biological identity, DNA. Right? So I think giving students that kind of framework kind of could help them with critical thinking, perhaps being a creative problem solver, using that identity example, possibly more civically engaged and culturally sensitive. You know, who are we and how do we fit in our community and the world? Just a thought. And finally, curriculum mapping. That's not new, right? But that's how we're going to get this done. If we're intentional about building our curriculum, the content, the skills, the ideas, and the essential questions, we can do this, right? We can build an experience that ensures that these are the types of graduates that we are producing in 4 years. Okay, next steps. We are going to create a district improvement team, and more information will be coming out about that. Both buildings, obviously, will be involved, representatives from all departments, coming together to articulate what are our goals, what are our specific goals. Actually, we have a whole slew of goals that we already have. I am not going to share them today because, you know, right? But that team will help us decide how we'll know if we've achieved those goals and develop plans for specific actions. So that's coming down the pike. All right. Essentially the end of my remarks with one exception. You may remember last year, most of our administrators participated in the Shadow a Student Challenge. Well, we have a video that had been produced by Dave, who's back there behind the camera. So wanted to unveil that officially for the first time here. So here goes. In 2018, Grayslake Building and District Administrators undertook the Shadow a Student Challenge. This is a national movement encouraging school leaders to follow a student throughout the school day to gain insight and empathy for our students' experiences. The organizers at shadowastudent.org write, "The Shadow a Student Challenge is a journey that starts with seeing school through your students' eyes, identifying meaningful opportunities to improve the school experience for your students, and then taking action to create change at your school site." So in that spirit, District 127 administrators each chose a student to follow throughout a school day during the weeks of April 16 and April 23rd. This was for every class, including life fitness. So we had a number of administrators running around in gym class, trying to keep up with students less than half their age. All right, so you're gonna have to show me like what to do, what not to do here. You got one?
Let's say it loud, yeah. I don't think it's really about the Krispy Kreme. Shake, he's got that discus on, baby. Let's go. Oh, Tony! Oh, yeah!
For tomorrow, I want to have a mini debate about which character so far seems to be the most evil.
So I don't really...
You're not excited about Macbeth?
No.
How long have you guys been working on Macbeth?
I think it was like 3 days, like maybe a week.
Oh, so you just started?
Yeah.
In the same space as those 3 data points as often as possible.
We're going to do a couple of examples together. We're going to do a couple of examples in groups.
Yeah, he's just our last year on that thing.
Did you get one hand?
Let's say your group, let's say your group, someone's absent. Every single person needs to be here in order to present. Are you guys prepped and ready for your presentation? You're kind of getting there?
We're getting there.
All right.
I feel like I'm ready.
Yeah?
I can like do it.
Really? What's like?
Wait, what?
First of all, if you have an author, an actual person, it should be last name and then first name. Let's start with, this one does conveniently the letter A, and it goes through alphabetically according to what's hanging off here.
But I always like going first because then like you kind of set the bar. Like you don't have to like, if you go second, somebody else will set the bar. You're like, oh my God, I gotta live up to that.
We're gonna do this right now for first hour social studies. Just finish up, and then second hour you can do that. How about that? It's cattle.
I think you're right, Jake. I think they don't have very many of these, so I think the right answer is D.
So for the first one in the first column, you would write cherries.
Is that like a plum or a peach? Peach?
Oh, no, we're not done. Wait.
I look at some of the schedules we build and I notice like some kids go all the way to 7th hour lunch and like they have PE before it. I mean, they've got to be able to eat in the classes. How would you make it that long in the day? Yeah.
And then do I have to add that? No.
1 quarter notes only for a piece. Now move it. Move it.
Oh, it's like this. Do 1, 2, and then you do 2 for this one, and then 2 for that one, and then 2 for that one. And that one would be 4.
No, it's all simple.
It's all on the second street.
Right.
Different system and connected it to the respiratory system.
Got it. Which system did you work on?
I worked on the muscular system.
Okay. So then what did you have to put in Schoology?
You just had to submit like an infographic of.
It's very different from last hour.
Oh, for sure. Lachlan runs a tight ship over there. It's very structured.
You have the direct components that are listed here, or at least that you can figure out very quickly. All right, so that third bullet point, heartbeats 20
How
times.
large is it?
How large is it?
So that milliliter isn't.
Just, it's not the aorta, it's the left ventricle.
I don't know if it is, because based on the review that you guys just did.
Okay, well, his blood pressure would be high. He ate a pizza and he got fired.
And you're like, oh, I'm not feeling well, and then you start to kind of list off.
Okay, we are heading to culinary arts with Miss Pope. So we just burned off a bunch of calories in PE class. So we'll see if we can put them back on.
Like overall pretty good for you guys?
Yeah, I was so excited to come to North.
So you guys didn't know each other at all before school?
No.
And now you're like best friends?
Yeah.
Slick, that's awesome.
We shadowed a wide variety of students in terms of grade level, gender, ethnicity, and the types of classes they take.
Is there something about like when you got here you felt safe, or was it just nice to be in high school?
I think it was just like the vibe. I felt welcomed.
I just felt came in with not that many friends.
Yeah.
And we made so many new friends.
Yeah. And it was just like the teachers. Most of the teachers that I have, I love them. Like they just like, I don't know. They made me feel so good.
So do you normally bring your lunch or buy a lunch?
I bring a lunch.
Okay.
every day.
Do you find you're starving by the end of the day?
Well, I bring snacks. I try to like have a small breakfast and then like a medium-sized lunch. That way I'm good throughout the rest of the day.
Okay.
But the only thing bad about it is that like I have gym right after, so I like just burn off all the calories that I ate at lunch, and then I'm hungry again.
You probably don't want to eat a ton right before you're gonna go run around.
Yeah. And also it's like breakfast. It's like 9:45 to 10:35, so it's so early.
They were laughing at me as I went back and they're like, lunch already? And I'm like, it's lunchtime.
Yep.
We also saw the efforts our staff put in every day, but this time from the student's perspective. Our teachers use a variety of teaching styles and activities, working very hard to ensure that all students have an experience that's relevant, that's engaging, that's authentic. Now that's what we want to see. Now that's great, but what did we learn? First of all, we learned that we need to find ways to give students more flexibility in the time, place, or path of learning, and how they're assessed. We know that different students may need different amounts of time on particular topics, to practice skills, to meet with teachers, or to collaborate with peers. So how do we allow for more voice and choice, but still provide a guaranteed, viable curriculum? That's a great question we'd like to explore. In addition, we want to continue updating our learning spaces. That includes more comfortable furniture, flexible display and presentation equipment, and different types of spaces. By updating our physical surroundings, we can offer our students a greater variety of engaging and authentic learning opportunities. Overall, it really hit home how hard our students work every day. Just the energy it takes to get to school as early as they do and attend all their classes, switching gears every 50 minutes or so. It's not an easy process. And then many of them go off to practice, to extracurriculars, to work, or to help their families. Anyone who says students don't have a work ethic should try walking in their shoes for a while. All right. Oh. Oops, so long. Where am I? Quit it. Got to be smarter than the equipment you're dealing with. Okay, good enough. Okay, so again, we wanted to kind of unveil that here. It was a great experience, I think, for all of us. The whole point is just empathy. Empathy for our students and the experiences that they have. So I wanted to start my remarks with students and kind of end it on students there. That's all I have.